The art of letting go is an essential skill that we all need to master in life. The Stoics had some very powerful ideas about how to not care and when to let go. And this is something that can help you live a better, more peaceful life. So today, we're going to be talking about 7 Stoic principles to master the art of not caring and letting go. This is the first principle from the Stoics that can help us not care and let go. When you think about it, most of the things that we worry about just don't matter. Epicurus talks about how most of the things that we pursue are actually indifferent. In other words, it doesn't really make a difference if we get them or if we don't. Take, for example, food. Food is something that we need to survive, but if we eat more than we need to or less than we need to, it's not going to make a big difference in our lives. It's not going to make us happier. It's not going to make us more successful. The same goes for money, fame, power, and so many other things that we spend so much time and energy pursuing. But what Epicurus says is that there are some things that are necessary for us to have a good life. That there is a range of these things that we can have, and somewhere within that range, we will be completely satisfied. For example, we need food to survive, but we don't need a 5-course meal every night to be happy. We don't need the biggest house or the newest car or the most expensive clothes. These things may make our lives more comfortable, but they're not necessary for happiness or success. This is why the Stoics teach us to practice voluntary simplicity. By voluntarily choosing to live with less, we free ourselves from the endless pursuit of more, which is often the source of our anxiety and stress. By focusing on what we really need and letting go of what we don't need, we can live a life that is more in line with our values and priorities. And this is the first step to mastering the art of not caring. You have to ask yourself, what do I really need? What am I holding on to that is not really important? By letting go of these things, you will free yourself from a lot of the anxiety and stress that you don't need. That was one point. Now let's move on to the second point. You know, we humans, we love to overcomplicate things, don't we? We like to make things more complicated than they need to be. And this is something that the Stoics talk about a lot. They say that we have the tendency to magnify small problems and minimize big ones. For example, we might spend hours worrying about something small, like whether or not we left the stove on at home, while at the same time we might ignore a major problem like a failing marriage or a toxic friendship. This is what the Stoics mean by magnifying and minimizing. We magnify small problems and minimize big ones. But the truth is that most problems are in reality not that big of a deal. Most of the things that we worry about just don't matter in the grand scheme of things. They're just little insignificant things that we've blown way out of proportion. And this is where the Stoics teach us to practice equanimity, which means to have a calm and steady mind no matter what is going on around us. To practice equanimity, we need to learn how to put things in perspective. We need to learn not to magnify small problems and to not minimize big ones. When we do this, we free ourselves from the emotional turmoil that so much of our suffering is caused by. And this is the second step to mastering the art of not caring. Put things into perspective and don't overcomplicate things. Don't magnify small problems. Now, you see, we humans, we got this funny way of doing things. We like to focus on the negative and ignore the positive. We like to dwell on the bad stuff and ignore the good stuff. And this is something that the Stoics talk about a lot. They say that we tend to focus on the negative, even though the positive is far more prevalent. For example, if you look at your daily life, you'll see that there are far more good things that happen to you every day than bad things. But we tend to focus on the bad things and let the good things pass us by. Why is this? Well, it's because we're biased towards negativity. Our brains are wired to pay more attention to negative things than to positive things. This is an evolutionary adaptation that has helped us survive. For example, if you were walking through the forest and you heard a noise, Would you rather assume that it was a friendly squirrel or a dangerous bear? Of course, you would assume that it was a bear because it's better to be safe than sorry. But this bias also causes us a lot of suffering. We tend to focus on the bad things in our lives and we let the good things pass us by. But the Stoics teach us to cultivate a positive mindset. They say that we need to learn to focus on the good things in our lives, no matter how small they may seem. When we do this, we'll be more likely to experience happiness and well-being. And this is the third step to mastering the art of not caring. Focus on the good things in your life and don't focus on the bad things. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do to master the art of not caring is to learn how to control our judgments. You see, we humans, we're always labeling things and making judgments about them. We say things like good or bad, right or wrong, beautiful or ugly, and we think that these labels define the things themselves. But the Stoics teach us that these labels only define our relationship to the things. In other words, it's our judgments that cause us to suffer, not the things themselves. Take, for example, the weather. Is it good when it's sunny or bad when it's rainy? Well, it depends on what you're doing. If you're trying to get a tan, then it's good weather. But if you're trying to water your crops, then it's bad weather. The same is true for everything else in life. It's our judgments that determine whether something is good or bad. And this is where the Stoics teach us to practice indifference. That doesn't mean that we don't care about things. It just means that we don't label things as good or bad. We simply accept things as they are and we respond accordingly. When we do this, we free ourselves from the tyranny of our own minds, and this is the fourth step to mastering the art of not caring. Accept things as they are and don't label them as good or bad. Don't judge things. Just accept them. All right, the fifth step to mastering the art of not caring is to remember that things are always changing. Nothing is constant. The only thing that is certain in life is change. The Stoics call this living in accordance with nature, and this is something that we need to remember at all times. Everything that we experience is temporary. Good things and bad things, both of them are temporary. When we understand this, we don't hold on to things too tightly. We don't expect things to stay the same. And when things inevitably change, we're not caught off guard. Instead, we accept it as part of the natural order of things. And this gives us a sense of peace and tranquility that nothing can disturb. And this is the fifth step to mastering the art of not caring. Remember that things are always changing. Don't expect things to stay the same. Accept change as part of life. The sixth step to mastering the art of not caring is to remember that we're all mortal. We're all going to die someday. And this is something that the Stoics talk about a lot. They say that we need to remember that we're mortal because this helps us put things in perspective. When we think about how short our lives really are, we realize that most of the things that we worry about just don't matter. We're not going to be around to see most of them through. And this helps us let go of things that we can't control. When we think about how precious our time is, we realize that we need to spend it wisely. We can't waste it on things that don't matter. And this helps us focus on what's really important. When we think about how fragile our lives really are, we realize that we need to appreciate every moment. We need to enjoy the present moment, because we don't know how much time we have left. And this helps us let go of things that are in the past or in the future. We focus on what's happening right now. So remember, we're all mortal. Our time is limited. Spend it wisely. Focus on what's important. Let go of what's not. And this brings us to the final step to mastering the art of not caring, which is to remember that we're all connected. We're all part of the same human family. And this is something that the Stoics talk about a lot. They say that we need to see the common humanity in all people, no matter who they are or what they've done. We need to remember that we're all in this together, and this helps us let go of things like anger and resentment. When we see the humanity in other people, we understand that they're not perfect, they're not better than us, They're just like us, and this helps us forgive them and move on. When we see the humanity in other people, we understand that they're not our enemies. They're our brothers and sisters. And this helps us work together and achieve great things. So remember, we're all connected. We're all part of the same family. Let go of anger and resentment. Forgive others and work together. So there you have it. 7 Stoic principles to master the art of not caring and letting go. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that you've learned something new. If you have, please leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought of the video. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I post new videos every week about Stoic philosophy and other topics. Thanks for watching.